It's rare to find an individual that combines craftsmanship, creativity, and an artistic eye. Stuart Welch has been doing just that since the 70s through his handcrafted wood furniture.
I had a few thoughts about craftsmanship. First of all, you know, it is important to sweat the small details. Whatever you're making. As a maker, there's always a lot of details, and that gets into the whole aspect of planning something before you start, and being very meticulous about your planning so that you are able to control the outcome in a better manner. Craftsmanship is an aspect of my life where I get to be the complete control freak. You actually have to get right to the line all the time, and to control that is a lot of fun. Training, I think, is also an important aspect of craftsmanship. I was very fortunate to go through a formal training, and it set a standard for me, and my instructors set an example with the quality of their work. And I think measuring up to that quality is important. You know, I think another aspect of craftsmanship is this line between art and function. You know, a functional piece is a very straightforward object that a maker puts out, but when it starts to enter into the realm of inventiveness and art, it takes on another aspect which I think falls under the realm of craftsmanship. It's certainly a skill set that is learned, and something that I will admit to is that probably the most effective way to learn things is to make mistakes. And by making mistakes, I have learned to be a better craftsman and learn to attain that skill set that is necessary for being called a master craftsman. I think that with all these skills that one accumulates over the course of their life, and for me it's been 40 plus years of skills, it becomes, pieces become, and my work becomes a harvest of skills. And that is, again, a sense of craftsmanship to me, to harvest those skills and apply them to my work. I think also that the habit of workmanship is important to craftsmanship. If it becomes part of your daily life, if it becomes the way of your life, it's a lot easier to embrace and certainly become a better craftsman. One can always be a better craftsman. There's that line between perfection and craftsmanship, and to try to attain that perfection, we don't always get there, but we can get close. And if we get close, it feels like you've done your best work. This is about some very special wood that I used when I made the dressing table. It's just a spectacular wood. It's almost three-dimensional. Because the value of the wood is so high, I was extremely careful about any of the more complicated aspects of the piece, the way the wood was joined together. If there was something that needed a setup, I actually used another piece of wood, a fairly common poplar or secondary wood, to make sure that the fit was going to be perfect before I started using this material, because there's no more of it. The finished product I knew could be spectacular, and you know, this dressing table has kind of a feminine quality about it. I intentionally did that because I think this wood, in my mind, it has a feminine quality about it. It's three-dimensional. It's got this otherworldly quality. So I was very careful with it and in the joining, and there was a lot of carving involved with this piece. And normally when carving is done, it's done with the grain like this, which allows the carving tool to cleave along the lines of the grain of the wood. Because I wanted the continuity of the piece to have this flowing skirt-like quality around the bottom, I carved it in this dimension. And that made it a lot harder. It made it a lot more time-consuming. Because when you go across and carving those shapes out, as I did, they had to be sanded between each one of those and finished off and carved in such a way that they were finished.
In the spring of 2018, Stuart exhibited his work at the Skagit County Historical Museum in LaConner. Here he talks about several of his favorite creations.
This table was inspired by a sculptor by the name of Noguchi, who also made some furniture. And his furniture was very sculptural, two pieces with a glass top. It's a very famous coffee table. And I loved the flow of that table. This particular table, the top of this table is a piece of walnut that is cut from the crotch of a tree. So it's got a lot of grain where that branch came out. And it, I think it enhances the flow of the bottom of the table as well. Last Christmas, my wife got from her sister a book on Japanese handbags. And it was an interesting book. It showed you how to make the handbags, but it was all in Japanese. My wife doesn't speak Japanese. I don't speak Japanese. But the quality of the book was very interesting to me. So after we had opened gifts and had big breakfast and it was almost time for football, I was sitting on the sofa and I picked up this book on the Japanese handbags and I started looking at it in detail. And the more I looked at it, the more I started seeing the characters, the Japanese characters, the style of writing that the Japanese use. And it looked like furniture to me. I started seeing this and I immediately picked up a sketchbook and I started sketching these shapes that come out of the Japanese characters. And this is, if you look at this straight on, this is a Japanese character, which means head. And I, of course, interpreted that to a chest of drawers, these being the lighter spaces. But if the space around these darker spaces, if you just look at that space, that is the Japanese character. I've always been fascinated with graphics. And black and white graphics are generally the most graphic. And this piece is a series of inlaid woods. This is ivory wood, and this is black wood. And it's the piano keys from the piano bench. And I just really enjoyed the graphic quality of how it looks, and it can function as a real piano bench. Artists have a license. You know, artists generally don't make a great deal of money, but they do get to express themselves. And this is a clock that expresses a feeling of mine that perhaps we don't need any more coal. We live in a valley here where we see the coal trains headed north on a regular basis, these giant mile-long coal trains headed to Canada, where the coal is going to be loaded onto ships and taken to China. And the air pollution in China has gotten to a point where I understand that it's hard to recruit people to go work in Beijing. So this clock is called Shovel In a Little More Coal. And it's a cuckoo clock. I've been working on a series of cuckoo clocks, and the cuckoo clock is special to me because I, of course, like the noise, but it also says cuckoo. Cuckoo has kind of a double-edged meaning. Maybe shoveling a little more coal is cuckoo. This table is called a demi-lune table. It's also a historic term for these curved tables. And this table in particular has a great deal of meaning to me and had a great deal of meaning to me both financially and in terms of enhancing my reputation at the time. This table won an award called the Roscoe Award, which was for Resource Council of New York. And it was an industry group of interior designers from all over the United States. And this table won the award, and I got the award for manufacturing these tables as well. And this award came with a lot of publicity. It was, the table was featured in Better Homes and Gardens, Architectural Digest, and a lot of very nice magazines. And it resulted in a lot of business for my workshop. We started producing these tables. I think we probably have made, in my workshop, we probably made at least 125 of these tables, different variations of the table. But this is the very first one. And I held on to it because it's kind of sentimental. And it's a fun table in the sense that it's relatively easy to produce. There are some details that I changed with different models, with different details with the legs, different woods. This wood is wenge, and then the legs are maple. But again, this demi-lune table was, the award was presented in New York, and they called me and said, you know, you might want to come to New York. And so I got on the plane, and they said, well, you might want to have a tuxedo. I didn't have a tuxedo at the time. I had to rent a tuxedo. So I had my rental tuxedo, and we went to the Javits Center where the awards were being presented that evening. And I didn't really know anyone. I was sitting at a table with some other interior designers and manufacturers, and my name was called. And it was the classic, the envelope please, and they opened the envelope for this category, and my name was called. And it was a special moment, and one that I won't forget.
For more information about Stuart and his work, visit his website at www.stuartwelchfurniture.com.